Good evening. This is Daisy Kinsey, Ranger here on Sierra Vista. I'm having a little trouble with my video. Hold on just a moment. Wonder if the host can allow my video to start. I'm getting a message saying the host has stopped the video. Okay, in the interim, we'll go ahead and get to our questions. And in the meantime, until that video comes up, I want you to know that want to thank you again for joining us this evening. This brings us to the live portion of the meeting. I want to remind you all that this is an informational meeting only. If you wish to submit comments in the draft EA, please submit them in writing to either the project website or submit them here to the Sierra Vista Ranger District Office. Information on how to submit written comments will again be provided at the end of the question and answer session. Like I said, we've got questions already coming up in the Q&A frame, so I'm going to go ahead and start reading those so we can start addressing them. Looks like we've got one focused on NEPA. The question is, the public notice is dated March 3rd, so 30 days later would be a comment deadline of April 2nd. But in another document, it states that the comment deadline is April 5th. What is the official deadline for comments? The official deadline is April 5th. However, I'll turn this over to Emma so she can explain a little bit more on the process.
Hey, sure, yeah, thanks for the question. So in this case, the legal notice published on the 3rd, as you said. And so in this case, the 30-day comment period would end on a weekend. So if a comment period ends on a Saturday, Sunday, or a federal holiday, then the next default public comment end date is the end of the next working day. So like Daisy said, and as is presented on this slide, the comment period will end on April 5th at 11:59 p.m. And you can find more details about how these comment periods are calculated in the legal notice posted on the project webpage.
Thank you, Emma. Next question deals with the reclamation bond. How much is the reclamation bond and how long is it for? I'm going to turn this one over to Rick, ID team leader.
Thanks, Daisy. That's a good question. Well, the bond right now, we're not currently working on it because of the NEPA environmental analysis. A lot of things can still change as far as cost and what we're going to require the proponent to do as far as the final reclamation and the mitigation measures. So that could have an impact on the cost. But we don't typically start really working on the bond until as we get closer to a final decision on EA. As I stated earlier in the briefing, one of the things that we do is we require that the proponent incorporate our final mitigation measures, and that would have could potentially have a big impact on the cost of the final bond. So it won't be until toward the end of this NEPA process before we actually start really diving into it. As far as the length goes of the reclamation, they are proposing concurrent reclamation. So as they go in from one phase area and one phase like our area A to area B, they'll be finishing up the reclamation on area A, going into area B. And so they'll have up to 1 year after the final drill hole, after the finally done drilling the hole, and then they'll have up to 6 years potentially monitoring afterwards to ensure that all the measures in the reclamation is taken hold.
All right, thank you, Rick. And it looks like I've got my video working, so apologies for the technical difficulties getting started, but looks like we're good to go now. So we'll get to the next question. Next question is why does Arizona Standard claim to be a small business when it is a subsidiary of Barksdale of Canada? I'm going to turn this one over to Rick Trotman.
Hi, Daisy. Thanks. And thanks for the question. Yeah, typically small businesses are usually defined as being something on the order of less than 100 employees. And so Barksdale, which is the parent company, as well as Arizona Standard, which is the subsidiary of the United States, in aggregate, we have 7 employees total, 3 of which work for us through Arizona Standard in the States, and 4 that are at the corporate headquarters in Canada. So by either measure, we're certainly a small business. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rick. The next question involves roads. The question is, existing roads in the area are very narrow, and any improvements would require widening. Such construction would create huge environmental repercussions in this highly biologically sensitive area. How can you claim there would be little impact? This one I'm going to hand it over to Walt, roads manager here in the forest.
Thank you, Daisy. Yeah, the vast majority of the road improvements are merely cleaning slush from the cut side of the road. There's usually plenty of space in there to get the required width that the proponent needs to get in within the existing disturbance footprint of the road already. So the vast majority of the road improvements will fit easily within the already disturbed footprint. There is the one new temporary bypass road that is a new road, but it will be topographically recontoured and recontoured at the end. So there's very little actual road disturbance to untrammeled terrain.
Thank you, Walt. Brad, wondering if you wanted to add anything to that response.
Yeah, basically, we've got, a total of 7.5 acres of disturbance from all the proposed project facilities. And the bulk of those include the laydown yard, the turnout areas, and the drill pad sites. And the remaining portion of that is actually road disturbance. So the actual additional disturbance to existing roads from widening those roads is be pretty minimal. That's why we said it's minimal in terms of the spatial extent.
All right, Brad, thank you. Just a reminder to everyone, again, this is an opportunity to ask questions, comments of the analysis. If you have official comments you'd like to make on the analysis, we do need to receive those in writing. Please send those either electronically to the project website or send them here to the district office in Hereford. Next question deals with watershed. What about disturbance to Harshaw Creek and its tributaries, erosion into the waterways? Might be a couple people on the team who could respond to this. I'm going to start with Brad and then see if you'd like to hand it off.
Thanks, Daisy. Feel free to jump in, any of the water resource folks, but in general, there's portions of Harshaw Creek and Humboldt Canyon and also Alum Creek. They're not entirely intermittent and they're not entirely ephemeral. There's portions of those creeks, according to the Corps and also Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, that are intermittent. And I can say that Arizona Standard is working directly. I'm the person responsible. It's working with the state ADEQ for a 401 water quality certification on those features, and also 404 individual permit for any type of project, individual project impacts on those features. As far as erosion to those those mentioned streams will be very, very minimal to non-existent because we've got a 4-1 water quality certification, like I said, and along with that, in relation to that, we've got a SWIP that was prepared for the project that will be implemented to control any type of erosion on site. And then also we've got a host of best management erosion control practices such as straw wattles and silt fence and so on and so forth that would ensure there'll be minimal to no impacts to those surrounding water features. And then I wanted to add to that, according to the plan of operations and the analysis in the EA, that the project proponent has agreed not to do any drilling in the 100-year floodplain. There'll be some minor road upgrades through those areas, but there'll be no drilling at all. There'll be no drill pads that are constructed in those areas. So that by itself will be a way to mitigate additional impacts.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else from Water Resources or the proponent would like to add anything to that response? Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Next question deals with, looks like roads and maybe also the proposed plan. Question is, I live on Flux Canyon Road, a mile from the highway, and I want to know what modifications you plan to do here. Walt, would you like to respond to this one?
Yes. So the first 1.5 miles of Flux Canyon Road in from the highway is maintained by the county. Plenty wide. There'll be nothing needed on that piece of road. It is now, what you see now is what you'll see during the project.
All right, thank you, Walt. Question now deals with the past versus the present. The question is, historic mining activity was nothing like current mining operations. How can you cite historic activity in comparison with 21st century mining? And essentially, I can take that one. Essentially that we're not trying to make a comparison of the proposed action to historic mining, just really that mining has really historically taken place in this area for a very long time, since the mid to late 1800s. In essence, this is not a new activity to the area, and as I think most everyone knows, the Patagonias are a highly mineralized mountain range on the Ranger District, and that's been known and explored for a very long time. Looks like we've got another watershed question. Who is responsible to verify the correct water use? Who will be monitoring that the boreholes are sealed properly, quality done? How will the public know? For this one, I'd like to turn it over to Manuel and or Brad.
Hi, thank you, Daisy. As far as abandoning the wells, the proponent will be obtaining permits from the state. We will be conducting every single we will be conducting inspections on a regular basis, and when we're out there, we will be, among other things, we will be checking all the mitigations and all the information that we require to do our inspections, everything from sampling, and we will be talking to the drillers themselves. Drilling companies will be coming in, and they will be licensed and bonded, so they would be responsible for not only providing the state information on how the hole was drilled, abandoned properly. And once a hole is abandoned, we will continue to monitor the area. It's like it was previously said by Rick, just coming in, not only monitoring the vegetation, silt leaving the area, or everything else, but part of that, those inspections will be looking at the boreholes themselves and the plugs themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. We do have another watershed question. Put this out to the team. Can you expand on the concerns regarding artesian aquifers in the region? Has there been a thorough review of artesian activity, both past and present, in this area? Manuel, if you're good, I'd like to hand that one off to you, and if Brad or someone else would like to address it as well, please do so.
Okay, thank you, Daisy. Currently, there is only one artesian well that we know of that is currently being taken care of with the state, and in conjunction with the state, it's being looked into it. That led us to believe that there is the likelihood of artesian wells within the area, but at low pressure. So this led us to believe that artesian aquifers can be encountered, but all measures will be taken to prevent the flow of water from exiting the borehole by using cement to plug the hole and bentonite clay. Thank you.
I can also add that they're not, until that current flowing well is abandoned and no longer flowing, the proponent is not going to be doing any activities in that particular area, just because the ground's a little soft, and add that as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan and Manuel. Next question deals with roads. Why do you need to use Flex Canyon Road from Highway 82 up to the top of the Forest Service property when you could use Harshaw access and avoid impacting the people who live in Alum and Flex Canyon Road? And hand that one off to Walt.
That's a good question. What it comes down to is the Trench Camp property is privately owned, and crossing Trench Camp property is up to the owners of the Trench Camp property. And so I'm sure that the proponent has been and will be talking with them to find out about using that in lieu of Flux Canyon. That's a private party issue. We cannot force private landowners to grant access.
Thank you, Walt. Next question deals with wildlife. Endangered species may be affected. The Mexican spotted owls have been proven to be significantly affected by this type of activity. A previous lawsuit brought this to light in the same project area. Why is this proposal being considered again? I'd like to hand this question off to John, District Wildlife Biologist.
Yes, thank you for your question. Yeah, you caught me in a little bit of governmental jargon, and I apologize for that. We say may be affected because those are the kinds of determinations we use when we consult with Fish and Wildlife Service. Because we are consulting with Fish and Wildlife Service, that means that we, or I, have determined for the best of my abilities that there definitely will be effects to listed species, and that's why we're consulting and requesting a communication with Fish and Wildlife Service to figure out what are the extent of those effects and what kinds of mitigation measures that we can do. Why is this proposal being considered again? Well, in lieu of your first part of that question about threatened and endangered species, that these kinds of activities are well within the scope of the Endangered Species Act, and the thing that you have to do with potential impacts like this to listed species is consult, which is what we're doing with Fish and Wildlife Service. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do these activities. It just means that you need to consult with Fish and Wildlife Service, the regulatory agency for threatened and endangered species.
Thank you, John. The question about heritage. Have tribal nations been consulted? Let's turn that one over to Dave, forest archaeologist.
Hi, thanks, Daisy, and thank you for the question. A short answer, yes. The Coronado regularly consults with the 12 Native American tribes and nations whose ancestral territory is now managed by the forest. And tribal consultation is ongoing. And if you're interested in the specific tribes that have been consulted and the current outcomes of consultation, there's some information in the draft EA that you could refer to. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Please make sure if you want to make official comments on the draft EA that you do those in writing and send those either into the project website or send them here to the district ranger office in Hereford. Deadline is April 5th. Got a question focused on minerals. How many years will the Forest Service monitor the project area? This question relates to recent acid mine drainage in the area from old adits. I'm going to turn this one over to Rick and see if he wants to hand it off for any additional information.
Thanks, Daisy. Well, if you look in the proposed action of the plan of operations, they have a basic schedule laid out as far as the monitoring goes. We are going to actively monitor this project up to 6 years after the final actions. But that's assuming that the reclamation hasn't taken place, the revegetation hasn't happened, that kind of stuff. As far as the acid mine drainage, we do the best we can. We do know, and we thank the public for helping us keep track of those and notifying us when they notice that some waters from the mines are coming, like the Lead Queen, those types of things. But I mean, that's always an ongoing situation as far as the monitoring goes. And I can also pass that over to Manuel. That'll be some of the things that we have as far as the monitoring goes with the water quality.
All right, thank you, Rick. Looks like we've got a couple more watershed questions that have come in. Harshaw Creek is now recognized as a protected waterway, and the designation may include side streams such as in Alum Gulch and Flex Canyon. Also, portions of Harshaw Creek have permanent flow, so it is not totally an ephemeral stream. You implied that Harshaw Creek is intermittent/ephemeral, but that is not true. Why are you trying to mislead the public? RE this. That one I'd like to turn that over to Manuel and then see if Brad or anybody else on the watershed team would like to respond.
Thank you, Daisy. We are not trying to mislead the public. Parts, like it was stated earlier by Brad, parts of Harshaw Creek and Flux and all the tributaries in that area are ephemeral, are intermittent. Some of them do have flow. I will pass it on to Brad to talk about the areas where the project itself will be drilling, which, to my understanding, where most of the drilling will be happening, will be away from Harshaw Creek.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I answered the majority of this question before, but I'll just kind of reiterate what was previously mentioned. I think Daisy might skip over this, but as I previously said, we've got best management practices, erosion control practices, and in place so as not to just to minimize or eliminate any impacts to surrounding waterways. Again, we've got a SWIP that's in place that has to be approved by ADEQ that provides a number of mitigation measures, best management practices, and other erosion control measures to avoid any type of impacts to any of these areas. And again, we've got permitting ongoing, a 401 water quality certification, currently working with the state and the Corps in their 404 individual permit for impacts to wetlands and other waters of the U.S. in these areas. And they are treating some of these areas as intermittent rather than ephemeral, even though for purposes of the Corps' permitting, rather than treat certain sections as intermittent versus ephemeral, they're treating the sections within the project area as intermittent and permitting them as such. And I can also answer the question regarding water sampling, since I'm since it's right next to the other question. So on the water sampling, as you know, the project proponent, Arizona Standard, has volunteered to do water sampling. Also, the Forest Service has required that as a mitigation measure. And then also Arizona Department of Environmental Quality has requested that too as part of the 401 water quality permit. So we, as part of that process, we have to come up with a sampling plan, and we've already written that. It's not part of the plan of operations, but we have submitted it to ADEQ. For water quality sampling, we propose to sample the water in various places in Harshaw Creek, Humboldt Canyon, and then Alum Gulch as part of the project prior to construction, during construction, and then after construction is complete. And that we will have interim reports that will be submitted both to the Forest Service and ADEQ as well. And I don't see any reason why that information cannot be available to the public if they wish to look at that information.
Thanks, Brad. Next question focuses on access. When will South 32 be asked for access to your project instead of subjecting Flux and Alum residents to constant traffic? Let's turn that one over to Rick Trotman.
Hi, Daisy. Yeah, thank you for the question. Look, I don't think that Flux and Alum are going to be subjected to too much traffic, whether or not we ultimately get something worked out with South 32. But we are going to reach out to them to talk about this subject, and hopefully it will be something that we can settle well in advance of any activity starting. But this is a business discussion that needs to be had ultimately. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Rick. I'm not seeing any new questions coming in the Q&A frame. Just a reminder, April 5th is the deadline to submit comments formally. We'll take comments anytime during the analysis. However, in order to be most useful to the analysis and also achieve standing during the objection period, we do need them by April 5th. Let's see. Got a question about climate change. Question is, a vital climate change response in the next 10 years is a major CO2 reduction. Since electrical vehicles to replace internal combustion engines are slow to become operational in the industrial sector, and since each gallon of diesel fuel burned produces 22.6 pounds of CO2, and since drill rigs generally seem to run 24/7, can you provide a calculation of the total contribution of this project to atmospheric CO2? I'm not sure that's something we can answer here tonight. That might need to be addressed and later. I would suggest that comment come in as a written comment formally during the comment period, and that's something we can definitely look at. I think there's some calculation needed there that we probably can't do here in this format, but I do thank you for submitting that and expressing that concern and question. Follow-up to the watershed question, didn't catch the answer to whether or not the age of the water will be tested. Manuel, is that something you can address, or Brad?
Yes, thanks, Daisy. That's a good question. Currently, the sampling protocol that we have set up is only for contaminants or metals found within the water system that are being monitored by ADAQ for all those tributaries and a few others that are coming in play because of the EPA. The age of the watering, we would not be sampling at this time.
All right, thanks, Manuel. Got a question about roads. Exactly how much traffic will be on Flex Canyon Road? I'll turn that over to Walt.
Yes, the estimated daily traffic is 12 round trips of vehicles per day. So Flux Canyon Road, the segment in the first mile and a half from the highway, currently has about 25 round trips per day. So if all the project traffic were to occur on Flux at the concurrent with the current traffic, it would increase traffic volume by 50%, from 25 to 37. We do not expect all the project traffic to occur on any individual road, but it's possible. The flip side of that, of course, is if you are the beneficiary of the additional traffic for a while, then you will be the beneficiary of no or greatly reduced traffic for the remainder of the project. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Walt. Next question is about focusing on heritage. Is the Cliffside Guadalupe Shrine in Humboldt Canyon considered a cultural resource? I'll turn this one over to Dave.
Hi, thank you for your question. I'm familiar with the shrine you're referencing. A cultural resources inventory was completed for the areas of potential effects for this project, and I went back and took a quick look when I saw your question pop up, and the shrine was identified as a feature. The consultation the forest has completed to date regarding cultural resources has determined there should be no adverse effects to any cultural resource sites. If you do have a specific concern about a specific site, I would encourage you to submit that as a written comment. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Dave. We have a question regarding the project area. It appears to include residential areas to the town of Patagonia, including the well-traveled Harshaw Road with frequent tourist activity. I'm going to hand this off to Walt and also Logan Simpson Design, who took the lead on the socioeconomic analysis.
Yeah, good question. Turns out that Harshaw Road has an average number of round trips per day of about 150, I believe it was. Let me see here. Yeah, it varies quite a bit from almost 250 a day down to 100 a day round trips. So if you add 12 round trips a day to that, that's whatever, 10%, 8% more. Pretty small number. So I think that the question said it by itself. well-traveled Harshaw Road. So yeah, there'll be some impacts, but it'll be minor.
Just as a point of clarification, the project area is shown graphically so that Harshaw and Flex Canyon Road are identified as part of the project. There are no residential areas per se included in the project area. So it's just a graphic illustration that we wanted to make sure that it was clear that the two major roadways are shown as part of the project area and were considered in the analysis in the draft EA.
Yeah, and further clarification, it's only the traffic on the road going past those areas that will be an impact to those areas directly. The actual drilling and such is further up in the mountains.
Okay, looks like we've got a follow-up to that one. Traffic that traverses the town of Patagonia, based on the testimony just given, may exceed town ordinances regulating weekly traffic. And the town ordinances limit weekly road traffic to 100 one-way trips per operator. Does anyone want to speak to those statements?
That would probably take more research into what the town of Patagonia's regulations are. But generally, for public roads, you cannot limit traffic on them. For instance, 20 years ago, town of Patagonia attempted to have tractor trailers prohibited from using State Route 82 through there. But that's not an allowable thing to occur. You can't limit public roads for legal public uses. So to give you a direct answer on that, I would have to do some research into the town of Patagonia's restrictions on the roads and which roads they are, etc. And that goes beyond what I can do here live.
Thank you, Walt. Yeah, so please, whoever submitted that comment or question, I encourage you to submit that written comment here to the project website or to the district office. All right, I'm not seeing anything new coming up at this point in the Q&A frame. Great questions, though. Definitely appreciate what you all are posing to the team. All right, here we've got one about noise. What will be the noise impact on the residents of Flux Canyon? For that one, I'm going to turn it over to Logan Simpson Design, and then if there's anyone else on the team who would like to address that.
Hi, this is Diane. The question dealt with the noise impact on the residents of Flex Canyon. The impact analysis that was done for noise is identified in the draft EA. So I would direct your question to the response in the draft EA. The level of impact from the volume would not exceed the federal highway noise or the town's ordinances that we are aware of. But I would also suggest, similar to some of the other questions, is that you submit this as a comment and officially submit it to the Forest Service before the deadline of April 5th. And we will be able to provide you a complete response, not just refer you to the draft EA at this time.
Thank you, Diane. Looks like we've got a question coming in about Again, watershed. Does the public have the right to request additional analysis on the water samples taken from the drill sites? You can certainly make that a comment on the draft EA. I'm going to ask, though, that Manuel, if you can respond to that question.
Hi, thank you, Daisy. Just like you just mentioned, yes, the public can comment and request additional samplings, and they will be taken into account. We would need, just like any other comment, to be very specific, and then we will review it and then take it into account. Since I'm here, I will answer the previous question as well, if that's okay. And it went, will the public be able to view the reports about any sealed boreholes, and where can the public educate themselves about the process, findings, water use, and any problems or impacts on the area that might occur? Yes, the public, once the boreholes are sealed, the proponent or the drilling company will have to submit in writing to ADEQ. It is my understanding, and that the borehole was abandoned properly and to specs, and we'll have to submit that. It's also my understanding that once that happens, ADEQ makes all of that data available. And as far as the process and everything else on how to go about abandoning a borehole and plugging it, ADEQ has a really good website where you can obtain that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. And it's been brought to our attention that we are likely using terminology that could be misleading or confusing. So specifically saying this project will, just want to bring it to let you all know that the draft EA does use wood terminology. It is a draft EA. We are not complete with the analysis, and that language is used in the draft EA. Question about the trucks. How heavy are individual trucks that would be used for this project? I'd like to turn that one over to Rick Trotman or Brad.
Hey, Daisy. Yeah, if you can give us just a couple minutes on that one, we'll look up to see if we can find the data.
Okay. It probably is likely in the draft EA as well. You can always reference the draft EA, I believe, for that information as well. We'll move on to another question. Will vehicles be equipped with spark suppressors and other devices to prevent fires in dry brush areas? I think that's also a question I'd like to hand off to the proponent, or maybe Rick Goshen can respond to that one.
Yeah, I can answer that, Daisy. This is Brad. Yeah, according to, I'm going to refer the reader to the plan of operations. We have a fire prevention control plan in there. I believe it's Appendix A. And I don't know if you have it handy, but I'll just tell you where it's at. It's 8.0 fire prevention control. It talks about how number 4, all combustion engine equipment will be equipped with spark arresters installed by the manufacturer. So yes, that is correct. We will have those on site and utilize those. So.
All right, thank you, Brad. Looks like actual vehicle weight, that is not currently captured in the draft EA. Just the types of vehicles that are proposed to be used as a part of the exploration activity are. So I would encourage you to make that a formal comment here in the comment period. Okay, no questions are coming up right now, so just a good time to also maybe bring up the slide that shows the project website. webpage that shows where you can go view project documents such as the plan of operations and other draft supporting analysis documents. And also on the right hand side, there's a get connected link, and that's where you can comment. You can click on the comment, object on the project link, and that's where you can submit comments electronically. While we're waiting to see if we get any more questions or comments, I'll just again mention that we appreciate you logging in tonight and commenting, providing questions on the draft analysis to date. If you'd like to make official comments, please do so by April 5th. All right, we've got one come in, a question that just come in. We who live nearby are now experiencing weekly fire alerts from the U.S. Forest Service and other firefighting agencies. When such an alert occurs, will special precautions be taken to avoid hillside fires? I can address this one. So when we are made aware of a smoke report or a start here on the Ranger District, we work with other agencies in the closest proximity to that start, and either we or that other agency usually are first on scene. Typically, when we get starts or smoke reports in the Patagonias, the town of Patagonia is usually on scene first, just due to proximity and being closer than we are here in Hereford. But we do have a coordinated effort to communicate with the Patagonia Fire District and share information. And so that's usually how we respond to smoke reports or starts in the district. And then if, depending on the nature of the start, then we make a determination if we need to bring in additional resources or if we can manage it with what we have on scene. All right.
Yeah, this is Brad Daisy. I just wanted to add just some additional information to that as well. Again, I want to refer the reader to the fire plan and we have Arizona Standard has a protocol in there for, we've got a communications protocol, we've got fire prevention and control and firefighting equipment, as well as proposed fire training for company personnel too. And as part of the communications protocol, to echo what you just said, Arizona Standard and all of its contractors will have a serviceable telephone for the area, which can connect the different areas and sites with the local Forest Service dispatch center as well. So I just wanted to add that as additional information. So
Thank you, Brad. Kind of a follow-up question, and maybe Brad, you can address this one as well. Will vehicles be equipped with spark suppressors and other devices to prevent fires in dry brush areas?
Thanks, Daisy. Yeah, I think I answered that earlier. And again, I refer the reader back to the, I believe it's Appendix A in the Plan of Operations. It says in there that, yeah, definitely, all vehicles will be equipped with spark arresters installed by the manufacturer. That's Section 8, number 5. So.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you had to, but just want to make sure.
Yeah, just make sure we have it covered. No worries. Yeah.
Okay, looks like I got a question about water. What municipality is the water coming from? Nogales, Patagonia, or where? Let's turn this one over to Manuel and then see if you'd like to also.
I can answer that too, and you can take
Okay,
it,
Brad.
Manuela. I can jump in too as well. So.
Okay. Thank you. There's currently 3 locations where the proponent will be obtaining water. I believe one of them is from Nogales, the other one's from Sonoita. And Brad, which one will be the third one?
Sorry, I was on mute. Santa Cruz County, Nogales International Airport, City of Nogales, Keno Springs, and then the community of Sonoita.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it could be all 3 of those. And I just wanted to note that these are confirmed water sources, but they may not necessarily be limited to those. But it could be one or more of those.
All right, thank you, Manuel and Brad. Question regarding the recordings of these public meetings. Will they be available? And if so, when? Yes, these will be posted to the project website. As far as when, I'm gonna let either Logan Simpson or Emma respond to that one. I'm not sure of the timing, but yes, they will be available online.
Yeah, we will be posting them to the project webpage. They're currently being recorded, of course, and we will post them as soon as possible. I'm gonna ask if Diane can provide an estimated date of when the recording will be available.
At the latest, it'll be next Friday, hopefully sooner than that.
All right, thank you both. The question about watershed. Will water samples be collected at varying depths from the boreholes? And also, thanks for all the great information. Manuel, would you like to take this one?
Yes, thank you. Currently, the sampling protocol that we have set up is for surface water. Right now, there would be no groundwater being collected while the drilling is happening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question, would like some more clarification about the fire alerts. The alerts are not about existing fires, they are precautionary alerts that instruct residents to take action to diminish the likelihood of starting fires. Shouldn't the exploration teams be similarly constrained? So as Brad has mentioned, the equipment will all be used, will have spark arresters on it to minimize or do away with the potential for starting brush fires. And should there be fire restrictions put into place here on the forest, then those would also affect not only the residents who use the forest and the forest users, but also the exploration team as well. And I'm gonna see if anyone else would like to, on the team would like to address this one.
Yeah, this is Walt, the road manager. There's fire staging. The Forest Service has 3 stages of fire precaution levels, and they apply to the public using the forest as well as industrial uses of the forest like this. So industrial uses will be limited by the various stages. For instance, smoking, welding, cutting, they are greatly restricted at each increasing stage, and sometimes they're prohibited depending on the activity and the stage. One of the precautionary things is to have a fire watch on site after activities have concluded to make sure that no fire is lingering, no smoke becomes fire after the activity. And because the drilling will be going on 24/7, they will have people there 24 hours a day. So they will have continuous fire watch.
Thank you all. Appreciate you expanding on that one. Looks like we've got a request to also expand on a previous question. Flux Canyon traffic increase of 50%. I'm not sure of the question there, but Walt, would you like to maybe expand on the anticipated increase of traffic on Flux?
Yes, like I stated earlier, if all of the project traffic were to use Flux Canyon Road, then you would have approximately 12 more round trips per day. The majority of those trips would be passenger vehicles, that is pickup trucks and SUVs, taking personnel to and from the drilling sites. The minority of those vehicles would be drill rigs, rigs taking drill rod, water trucks, that sort of thing. So it would be akin to what you would see on the road. For the most part, you would just see 12 more round trips per day for the duration of the drilling operations that were up Flux Canyon Road.
Thank you, Walt. All right. We've got just a few more minutes, so give y'all a little more time if you have any other questions or comments for the team. Just a reminder, the deadline is April 5th to submit your written comments. Please do so either on the project website or here in writing via mail to the Ranger District Office. Maybe we could put up the slide with the instructions on how to comment as we close out here. Alrighty, thank you. So yes, how to comment. As a reminder, be as specific as possible with your comments. Make sure they're within the scope of the proposed action, that they have a direct relationship to the proposed action, and include any supporting reasons for your comment. It can be submitted electronically online at the project website or by mail, written form to the Ranger District Office in Hereford, Arizona. And they're due by April 5th.